idea of talking about dating sound to you? Well, I guess it mostly depends on who you're talking about it with. Talking about your crush with your friends isn't that big of a deal. Writing about dating in your journal doesn't seem too risky. But talking to your parents or small group leaders here at church, to some of you that might be super awkward. Or maybe some of you might think that actually doesn't sound too bad. No matter how you feel about it, we think talking about dating, sex, and our desires and all of the stuff that comes with it is too important to just skip over. Now, we know that not everyone in this room is allowed to date yet, and we know that not everyone in this room wants to date yet. But we think that it's important to have conversations like this one here at church because we want the best for you in all things, including dating. And we also know that what's best for you when it comes to dating can be difficult to figure out. We see movies and TV shows and influencer couples that give us these too good to be true images of dating and relationships all the time. But here's the thing, dating and relationships aren't always picture perfect. You may have experienced this in your own relationships or have noticed it in the adult relationships around you. They can be awkward, frustrating, disappointing, messy, and weird. The truth is relationships can be less than perfect a lot of the time. I think that's just the way relationships are sometimes. They don't always turn out the way that we expect them to, and they aren't always picture perfect. If you haven't experienced a similar situation to what we just saw, I guess you could probably talk to almost any adult or older teenager in your life who has their own less than perfect dating story. And that's because dating just has the potential to be awkward. But knowing that, many of us still probably have an idea of what we hope a dating relationship might be like. Maybe right now we feel like we're ready to date, but we're not allowed to. Or maybe dating is all of our friends seem to be talking about, but we just don't really care all that much about it. Maybe we want to date someone, but no one has seemed to notice us yet. Or maybe we've just started dating for the first time. No matter what category we fall into, we probably still have an idea of what a perfect relationship should look like. Let's see what you think the perfect relationship should be all about. If you agree with each statement I say, give me a thumbs up. If you disagree, give me a thumbs down. A perfect relationship is one where they get along with all of our friends. A perfect relationship is where we both look like Instagram models and take the best couple photos. A perfect relationship is one where we enjoy the same activities. A perfect relationship is one where our longest Snapchat streak is with that one special someone. A perfect relationship is where we never are jealous of the person that they sit next to in math class. A perfect relationship is one where we have dinner at their house and meet their parents. A perfect relationship is one where we get to hang out whenever we want outside of school. A perfect relationship is one where we laugh at the same things. A perfect relationship is one where our palms don't sweat like the Amazon rainforest when we hold hands. A perfect relationship is one where we both make the best couple TikTok videos for everyone to see. A perfect relationship is where we don't have a lot of drama or fights. When we think about dating, we focus on a lot of what we want the relationship to look like. We think about who we would want to date, what we would want the relationship to be like, and the kind of stuff that we want to do together. And while all of that stuff is definitely important to consider, I think when it comes to dating and relationships, we often forget to ask what we should be focused on before we even start dating. It's important because our answer impacts what dating looks like for us and even who we choose to date. Look, even if you're thinking, this is deep and all, but I'm not even trying to date right now, I get it. But it's still an important question for us to think about because we're laying a foundation for our future relationships right now. So even if you're not dating or not interested right now, understand that what we should be thinking about when it comes to dating and relationships is important. So when it comes to dating, where should we look for help? How could we make sure that we're focusing on the right things when it comes to dating both now and in our future? Well, there's actually some pretty old advice that might just be helpful for us today. A couple thousand years ago, a guy named Paul wrote a letter to Christians in a town called Corinth. Now, Paul was a guy whose life had been completely changed by Jesus. After encountering him, Paul started sharing the message of Jesus with people all over the world. And one of the places Paul went to spread the message was Corinth. After he spent time in the city, Paul wrote to the people there a message to remind them of what God says is best for them. And in his first letter to the Corinthians, Paul included a couple of sentences that can help us here. In fact, I think it's exactly the kind of stuff that we should think about when it comes to dating and relationships. Check it out. Love is patient and kind. Love is not jealous or boastful or proud or rude. It does not demand its own way. It is not irritable, and it keeps no record of being wronged. It does not rejoice about injustice, but rejoices whenever the truth wins out. Love never gives up, never loses faith, and is always hopeful and endures through every circumstance. Here, Paul listed what God says love looks like: patient, kind, faithful, hopeful, and lasting. When we think about that kind of love, isn't it exactly what we want other people to give us? I mean, honestly, don't we usually think about that type of love Paul mentioned as being about the other person in the relationship? We want the other person to be patient. We want them to be kind. We hope that they're faithful. When we read a list like this, we usually see it as a long list of the things that we want to find in the person we're dating. And let's be clear, that's not bad at all. God does want us to have all of this kind of love in all of our relationships. He wants us to look for these type of characteristics in other people when it comes to everything from friendships to dating. But we shouldn't just look for them in other people. Instead of focusing on finding all of this great stuff in other people, we need to stop and look at ourselves. We need to consider if we are that kind of person as well. Becoming the person God made us to be is so important. And a huge part of that is allowing God to develop all the great characteristics that Paul lists for ourselves. No matter if you choose to date or not, one step that you can take toward becoming the person God created you to be is to practice sexual integrity. Basically, that means choosing to respond to the things that we feel, think, and desire in a way that respects ourselves, others, and God. Dating may be a very real way for you to learn to live out the important characteristics Paul wrote about. But you don't have to wait until you start dating to practice sexual integrity or learn to live out these important characteristics. In fact, we need to put these characteristics into practice before we even think about dating someone. Think about it like this. Focus on becoming love before looking for love. So, I don't know where you are with all of this dating stuff. Maybe you're already dating or aren't allowed to date. Maybe you're waiting to date someone, or you're just not ready or interested in dating yet. And that's all okay. Wherever you are, you have the opportunity right now to live out the characteristics of love that Paul wrote about in his letter to the Corinthians. The reality is that God has given us all the power we need to become the type of people that He wants us to be. So instead of using dating as a way to look for the right person, let's focus on developing the characteristics of love that Paul listed for us. Let's focus on becoming love before looking for love. So how can we do that? First, pick one of the characteristics on Paul's list that you want to develop in yourself. Maybe you could use more patience, or you'd like to be quicker to forgive, or you want to cut back on the rude comments you make to those that you care about most. What if you just started by picking one characteristic in yourself that you want to grow right now? Then, practice what you pick. Seriously, try it. If you have a tendency to be rude to those you love, practice giving compliments to them on purpose instead. If you tend to be impatient, practice being patient in your responses to people this week. Or instead of holding a grudge, practice bringing up and talking through something that hurts your feelings. None of this is easy, but all of it can be so good. Real love takes a ton of work, and if we're going to become love before looking for love, we're going to need to focus on growing the characteristics necessary to be the type of person that we want to date. A person who is kind, patient, honest, humble, hopeful, and all of the other things that Paul mentioned. Look, dating can definitely be awkward, but it won't always be that way. And when you choose to focus on the stuff that's important before you start dating, you're taking a step in the right direction. When you develop the characteristics God wants you to have and treat the other person the way that He created you to, it can help you practice sexual integrity both now and in your future relationships. Just imagine if for you, dating could be a really positive experience for both you and the person you're dating. Even if you're not dating yet, what if focusing on becoming the loving person God created you to be could set you up for the best dating life when that day comes? Imagine if choosing to focus on becoming love before looking for love was the best thing ever. That's why we've spent the last 4 weeks talking about sex and desires here at church. Even though these topics can be awkward to talk about, I really believe that they're important conversations that we need to have. And we don't want the conversations to stop here. That's why you have your small group leader and your small group. So today, I want you to keep the conversation about dating going with your small group. If nothing else, you can encourage each other to build characteristics that help you grow in love with each other. And that is a pretty cool place to start.